Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com, and welcome back to our final installment of our engine rebuild on our 2011 Polaris Sportsman 850. As you can tell, we've got it all put back together from the previous episodes, got our new piston and ring assemblies put in there, checked all the bearings, checked the head and the seats, the valves, all that looked good. We've got our timing set. She's complete and ready to go back in there. So what I'm going to do on this final installment is just reinstall it, get everything hooked back up, get the systems bled back off, fill it back up with radiator fluid and oil, and talk a little bit about the break-in procedure. So let me get this thing dropped down, this thing slid over, and get it installed. Let's get started. All right, this isn't a requirement, but this gasket has a habit of falling down. I'm just putting a little bit of a sealer on there just to hold it in place. Makes life a lot easier. Next, we want to go ahead and grease the input shaft into the transmission. It was looking a little rusty before. Now, don't strain your back too bad, but just kind of walk her in there from the side and then straddle it to hold it in place. And be careful not to damage any of the hoses, especially that one that goes to the foot brake. Now it's a matter of just using a couple of different pry bars to lift the motor in place and getting it to line up on that input shaft. Made it a little bit easier by actually tilting up the front face of the transmission. And I recommend using a little Loctite on the transmission to engine bolts once you get it slid in. All right, there are 7 bolts that hold the engine to the transmission, and the torque value for each one of those is 18 foot-pounds. All right, with the transmission bolted to the engine, next we need to go ahead and get the motor mounts in place. You have to use a pry bar, lift up on the engine, get those holes to line up. Then you can go ahead and secure that 14mm bolt, which actually bolts it to the frame. All right, let's go ahead and start working on the intake, which has been zip tied up out of the way. Let's get the fuel rail in place with the fuel injectors. Get it bolted down to the intake plenum. Next, go ahead and plug in your injectors. And don't forget that one bolt down at the bottom. All right, next we can go ahead and put in the throttle bodies. Keep in mind that that intake air duct and the bolts that pass all the way through it, it all goes together like it's one unit. No gaskets because it actually has O-rings built into either side of the throttle body. Plug in your crankshaft position sensor. Now would be a good time to go ahead and put the engine ground wire in place. Next, plug in your stator output. Before you put in the fuel tank, it's a lot easier to go ahead and snug down that lower radiator hose. Get it clamped in place. Now let's go ahead and work on the prop shaft that goes to the front. Remember, you want to slide it onto the transmission end first, and then you can knock her forward and then push that pin back through. Want to make dang sure that you've got it aligned properly to where that pin will actually go all the way through the shaft itself. Now we can go ahead and slide in the fuel tank. Just a couple of bolts at the top of it to hold it in place. Next, go ahead and reinstall your fuel line to the fuel rail from the fuel tank itself. Just push the ends on and then slide that white clip in to lock it in place on both ends. Next, let's go ahead and get that frame spar back in place. Kind of put them in there loose to begin with until you get them all 4 started, and then snug them down. Now we can go ahead and put it in the exhaust headers. Yeah, notice that those studs actually pulled through. I'm just going to put them back in the same way. Want to go back and forth on several of the bolts to make sure it snugged it down all the way. All right, now we need to go ahead and run the upper radiator hose up to the top of the engine. Be careful how you route this. Make sure you get it back the way it came out. Next, we can go ahead and put in the air box with that rubber boot. Put it in from the side, and then you can rotate it around. Get it slid over that intake plenum. Now we can go ahead and attach our breather hose. Make sure that clamp gets on there. All right, now we need to go ahead and mount our CDI box. Make sure that you put the ground wire on the back side where that screw goes through it that actually mounts it to the air box. Got our new spark plugs in. Go ahead and put our caps on with our leads. All right, next, let's go ahead and get those springs on that exhaust. I know it's a little tough. Those springs have a lot of tension on them. Now we can go ahead and start refilling it with coolant. And finally, we can go ahead and reconnect our battery and put some fuel in it. Don't forget your oil. She holds right at 2 quarts. Go ahead and get your air filter, make sure it's clean, pop it in place. Well, it's the moment of truth now. Let's go ahead and fire it up and see what we've got. Well, alrighty. I think that sounded pretty good to start off with. Now listen, we're basically breaking in a brand new engine. We want to get those rings to seat back into those cylinder bores correctly. So you want to take it easy for about the first 20 hours of operation. You want to vary your throttle a lot, not just hold it at one particular RPM for too long. Definitely don't want to go wide open throttle on it yet. Let it sink back in, because really, do you want to go through all that again? We want it to all start meshing together and working correctly. Start out of the box right with this one, you know. Well, that pretty much wraps it up, other than putting the plastics back on this. It's ready to go. Listen, if you need any of the parts that I used on this, come see us at Partzilla.com. If there's anything that I missed, something you didn't really follow, leave me a comment in the section below, and I'll do my best to answer it. And from me and for the rest of my team, we just want to say thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.